Most people think expensive failures are just part of owning a high-mileage truck, but most of the time they're not random at all. They come from small habits that quietly destroy lubrication, overheat fluids, and push parts out of tolerance long before a warning light ever shows up. That's how two identical Fords end up with completely different futures. You start seeing it in patterns: rough cold starts, delayed shifts, rising temperatures, or fluids that don't look the way they should. In this video, we're going through 12 habits that protect the systems that actually decide engine life, with exact intervals and real cost gaps. Watch till the end, because the last one is the hidden chemistry problem that turns it still runs fine into a full rebuild. Let's start with number 12, short oil intervals. Change your oil before the dashboard reminder blinks. A 10,000-mile oil change can quietly turn into an $8,000 repair. Modern Ford engines work their oil hard. High temperatures, tight clearances, and turbo heat cycles slowly break down viscosity and exhaust the additive package. As protection thins, timing chains wear faster, cam phasers lose stability, and turbo bearings start seeing metal-to-metal contact long before you hear a rattle. The truck still runs, which is why so many owners miss the early damage. The fix is simple discipline. Change full synthetic oil every 5,000 miles or every 6 months, whichever comes first. If your driving includes short trips, heavy towing, or extended idling, shorten that interval further. A quality oil change costs roughly $100. Replacing cam phasers, a stretched chain, or a damaged turbo can range from $3,000 to $8,000. That gap alone should settle the debate. Watch for a brief startup rattle, rough idle, or oil that looks unusually dark and thin before it's time. For added certainty, send a sample to a lab for oil analysis. The report will show viscosity loss and additive depletion most drivers never see. Protecting lubrication is step one. Heat management, however, exposes an even more expensive weakness. Number 11, 10R80. Transmission fluid service. Service your 10-speed transmission early, because overheated fluid silently erodes clutch material long before slipping appears. Lifetime fluid sounds reassuring until the transmission starts slipping under load. Ford's 10-speed 10R80 is a strong unit when maintained, yet heat is its silent enemy. Over time, fluid breaks down, clutch material circulates through the valve body, and microscopic debris scores internal passages. Shifts feel slightly delayed at first. Then comes the shudder. By the time harsh engagement shows up, internal wear is already advanced. Preventing that outcome is straightforward. Perform a drain and fill every 40,000 to 60,000 miles, adjusting sooner if you tow heavy or drive in stop-and-go traffic. Fresh fluid and a new filter typically cost between $200 and $300. A full rebuild or replacement can range from $4,000 to $10,000 depending on region and damage. That difference alone justifies routine service. Notice subtle warning signs such as hesitation between gears, a flare in engine speed during shifts, or elevated transmission temperatures on your dash. A scan tool that reads live transmission temperature data is a worthwhile investment. One caution stands firm: never power flush a neglected unit, as sudden debris movement can accelerate failure. Fluid health keeps the gears alive. Thermal stress in another system, however, proves even less forgiving. Number 10, coolant chemistry and mixing. Flush your coolant on schedule and never mix formulas, or corrosion begins attacking aluminum surfaces deep inside. Mix the wrong coolant once, and corrosion begins long before you see a leak. Modern Ford engines rely on specific additive packages to prevent electrolysis, seal breakdown, and aluminum pitting. When coolant ages past 5 years or 50,000 miles, those additives deplete. Acidity rises, protective barriers weaken, and metal surfaces start reacting at a microscopic level. The engine still runs smoothly, which is why so many drivers ignore it until white smoke or unexplained coolant loss appears. The disciplined approach is simple. Flush and refill with the exact Ford specification coolant every 5 years or 50,000 miles, whichever comes first. The service typically costs around $200. Compare that to $2,000 to $7,000 for a head gasket repair or warped cylinder head. A small refractometer or coolant test strip can confirm concentration and contamination levels in minutes, giving you early warning before damage compounds. Watch for a sweet smell under the hood, rising temperature at idle, or coolant stains near hose connections. One firm caution applies: never mix different coolant types, even if the colors look similar. Chemical incompatibility accelerates internal erosion. Protecting temperature stability preserves tolerances. Yet even a perfectly cooled engine can fail if pressure builds where it should not. Number 9, maintenance log. Track every service and oil drop carefully, because patterns reveal hidden wear long before warning lights illuminate. An engine rarely fails without leaving clues. Most owners simply never write them down. Skipping a maintenance log turns small patterns into expensive surprises. Oil consumption that rises from half a quart every 1,000 miles to a full quart often signals ring wear or turbo seal fatigue. Uneven tire wear at 5,000 miles hints at alignment drift. When services blur together in memory, early warnings disappear. Keeping a record costs almost nothing. A $2 notebook or a simple phone app can track dates, mileage, fluids, and observations. Compare that to $1,000 to $5,000 for repairs that might have been caught early. Logging oil changes every 5,000 miles, coolant flushes at 5 years, and transmission services at 40 to 60,000 miles creates a timeline that protects the engine. The discipline itself builds longevity. Notice trends rather than isolated events. A dipstick that drops faster than usual, a faint startup rattle that appears more often, or a minor vibration after towing should be recorded immediately. The exception is simple. Dealer service records alone are not enough because they rarely track consumption or subtle symptoms. Patterns separate 500,000-mile trucks from average ones. Mechanical pressure, however, creates damage long before it shows up in writing. If this checklist is helping you rethink how you maintain your Ford, take a second to like the video, subscribe for long-term reliability breakdowns, and share your current mileage below. Number 8, undercarriage rust and brake line corrosion. Wash the undercarriage regularly during winter months, preventing salt from quietly perforating brake lines and structural steel. A brake line does not gradually fail when corrosion wins. It bursts without warning. In northern states and coastal regions, road salt and moisture cling to the frame, suspension mounts, and steel lines underneath your Ford. Over time, chloride exposure eats through protective coatings, thins metal walls, and weakens structural points. The truck may look clean from above, yet the damage progresses where most owners never inspect. Preventing that decay is straightforward and inexpensive. Wash the undercarriage at least once a month during winter and rinse thoroughly after heavy salt exposure. In warmer climates, seasonal cleaning is usually enough. A high-pressure underbody rinse at a car wash might cost $20. Replacing rusted brake lines, repairing frame sections, or addressing severe corrosion can range from $800 to $6,000. That spread alone makes routine cleaning a smart investment. Pay attention to flaking metal, damp spots along brake lines, or a soft pedal feel that develops suddenly. A simple flashlight inspection and a small inspection mirror can reveal trouble before it escalates. One caution stands firm. Do not assume low mileage protects against rust, because exposure matters more than miles driven. Surface corrosion is visible. Internal mechanical pressure, however, hides in places far more destructive. Number 7, PCV system. Inspect and replace your PCV valve routinely, stopping crankcase pressure from forcing oil past seals. Engines do not start leaking oil randomly. Pressure builds first. The positive crankcase ventilation system regulates that pressure by routing blow-by gases back into the intake. When the PCV valve sticks or clogs, crankcase pressure rises, forcing oil past seals and gaskets. Over time, that pressure also promotes sludge formation as vapors condense and contaminate the oil. The result is slow deterioration that often gets blamed on old age rather than a small neglected component. Routine inspection prevents that cascade. Check or replace the PCV valve every 30,000 to 50,000 miles, especially on EcoBoost engines where boost pressure increases crankcase stress. A replacement valve usually costs between $10 and $20. Ignoring it can lead to oil leaks, gasket failures, and repairs that range from $1,000 to $3,000. The math favors prevention every time. Watch for rising oil consumption, damp valve cover edges, or rough idle. A simple vacuum gauge can help confirm whether the system is flowing correctly. One caution deserves emphasis. Do not assume a clean exterior means proper ventilation inside. Boosted engines are particularly sensitive to pressure imbalance. Managing internal pressure protects seals. Lubrication timing at startup, however, presents a completely different risk to turbo longevity. Number 6, cold revving turbo. Warm your EcoBoost gently before acceleration, allowing oil circulation to protect fragile turbo bearings from dry friction. Revving a cold EcoBoost feels harmless, yet it grinds on parts that are barely lubricated. When the engine first starts, oil sits thick in the pan and takes time to circulate through narrow turbo oil passages. If you press the throttle immediately, turbo shafts spin at extreme speed before a full protective film forms. Metal surfaces experience friction they were never designed to handle cold. Over time, that repeated stress leads to bearing wear, oil coking, and eventual turbo failure. Patience costs nothing. Allow the engine to idle for 30 to 60 seconds before driving. Then keep revolutions under 3,000 until the temperature gauge begins rising. In extremely cold climates, give it slightly longer. Replacing a turbo can range from $1,500 to $4,000. Waiting less than a minute saves that expense. The contrast is simple. Listen for a rising turbo whine, blue smoke under acceleration, or delayed boost response. An oil pressure gauge or scan tool that reads oil temperature can confirm when conditions are stable. One caution stands firm. Aggressive revving while parked does not warm the engine evenly and can increase wear. Startup discipline protects turbo bearings. Gear oil under heavy load faces its own quiet breakdown over time. Number 5, differential and transfer case service. Replace gear oil on schedule to prevent microscopic metal particles from grinding expensive driveline components. A humming sound at highway speed is often the first hint that gear oil has broken down. Rear differentials and transfer cases in Ford trucks work under constant load, especially when towing or driving four-wheel drive. Over time, gear oil loses viscosity and shear strength. Microscopic metal particles circulate through bearings and gears, gradually pitting surfaces and altering contact patterns. The damage builds quietly until vibration or whining becomes impossible to ignore. Servicing these components on schedule prevents that slow erosion. Change differential and transfer case fluid every 30,000 to 50,000 miles. If you tow heavy trailers or haul regularly, cut that interval in half. A fluid change typically costs between $150 and $300. Rebuilding a differential or replacing bearings can run from $1,200 to $3,500. The difference speaks for itself. Watch for vibration under acceleration, a steady hum that rises with speed, or fluid that appears dark and metallic when inspected. A simple fluid pump makes refilling clean and accurate. One caution matters. Never overfill, and always use the exact gear oil specification recommended by Ford. Driveline stress rarely destroys engines directly. Fuel contamination inside the crankcase, however, attacks from within. Number 4, fuel dilution. Shorten oil intervals when driving short trips, limiting gasoline contamination that weakens viscosity and timing chain stability. Fuel dilution hides in plain sight. Direct injection engines, especially EcoBoost models, can allow small amounts of gasoline to slip past the piston rings during cold starts and short trips. That fuel mixes with engine oil, thinning it and reducing its ability to maintain a protective film under load. As viscosity drops, timing chains experience increased stretch, cam phasers lose precise control, and bearings operate with less cushioning than designed. The engine may sound normal for thousands of miles, while internal wear quietly accelerates. Prevention requires awareness and shorter oil intervals. Change oil every 5,000 miles or sooner if most of your driving involves short commutes. Sending an oil sample to a laboratory once or twice a year provides measurable dilution percentages and viscosity readings. An oil analysis kit typically costs around $100. Ignoring dilution can lead to timing chain service or cam component repairs ranging from $3,000 to $7,000. The contrast favors early detection. Pay attention to oil that smells strongly of fuel, rough, idle after warm-up, or increased oil level on the dipstick. One important exception applies. Long highway drives at operating temperature help reduce dilution, but they do not eliminate it entirely. Chain stretch rarely announces itself loudly. A brief startup rattle often tells the deeper story. Number 3, timing chain stretch. Investigate startup rattle immediately, because minor slack today can evolve into catastrophic cam timing drift. That brief rattle at startup is not just a personality trait of your Ford. Timing chains are designed to last a long time, yet they do not last forever. As oil thins from heat or fuel dilution, the chain and its guides experience accelerated wear. Slack develops gradually. Cam timing drifts slightly out of specification. Left unchecked, that stretch can lead to misfires, poor performance, and in extreme cases, piston to valve contact. What begins as a faint noise can end as a catastrophic mechanical event. Addressing it early makes all the difference. If you hear consistent startup rattle or see cam timing related trouble codes, have it inspected immediately. A scan tool that reads cam phaser angles can reveal deviation before severe damage occurs. Replacing chains and guides proactively may cost around $2,500. Waiting until severe wear or internal damage sets in can push repairs beyond $6,000. That gap alone justifies quick action. Monitor symptoms such as rough idle, check engine lights tied to cam timing, or reduced fuel efficiency. One caution stands firm. High mileage trucks deserve closer inspection even if noise seems minor. Chains rarely snap without warning. Overheating, however, can distort engine components in a single event. Number 2, single overheat event and head warp. Shut the engine down instantly at temperature spikes, preventing aluminum heads from warping beyond repair. One red temperature spike can undo years of careful maintenance. Modern Ford engines use aluminum cylinder heads that expand rapidly under excessive heat. When coolant levels drop or a thermostat sticks closed, temperatures climb fast. If you continue driving while the gauge is in the red, the head can warp slightly against the engine block. That distortion weakens the head gasket seal and allows combustion gases or coolant to leak internally. The engine may still run afterward, but damage has already begun. The correct response is immediate shutdown. Pull over, let the engine cool completely, and arrange for a tow rather than limping home. A tow might cost $100 to $200. A warped head and gasket repair can range from $4,000 to $9,000 depending on severity. That difference alone should remove any temptation to keep driving. Watch for rising temperature at idle, steam from under the hood, or a sudden loss of heater performance. After any overheating incident, use a cooling system pressure tester to verify integrity. One important exception applies: never remove the radiator cap while the system is hot. Internal chemistry creates long-term damage, yet it does so silently without a flashing warning light. Number 1. Oil, oxidation, and sludge chemistry. Control heat cycles and oxidation through disciplined oil maintenance, stopping sludge from starving vital engine bearings permanently. Engines rarely die from one dramatic mistake. They fail from slow chemical decay. Oil does more than lubricate. It cools, cleans, and suspends contaminants. Over time, repeated heat cycles trigger oxidation. Molecules break down, thicken, and begin forming sludge through polymerization. That sludge restricts narrow oil passages, starving bearings and cam journals of proper flow. Pressure may still register on the gauge, while critical surfaces receive less lubrication than designed. By the time knocking or low oil pressure appears, internal wear has already become irreversible. Prevention demands strict interval discipline and quality oil. Change full synthetic every 5,000 miles, or sooner under heavy towing or high idle conditions. Avoid stacking heat through aggressive driving immediately after hard use. An oil change costs roughly $100 to $150. A complete engine replacement can run from $8,000 to $15,000. That spread defines the difference between longevity and failure. Pay attention to dark, tar-like residue under the oil cap, fluctuating oil pressure readings, or persistent ticking from the valve train. An occasional oil analysis can measure oxidation levels before sludge forms. One caution remains critical: extended idling accelerates chemical breakdown even if mileage stays low. 500,000-mile Fords are not lucky machines. They survive because their owners control what happens inside the oil film every single day. If you want your Ford to be the one that keeps running while others are waiting on parts, save this checklist and start using it. Drop your current mileage in the comments and tell me which habit you're fixing first. If this breakdown helped, hit like so more owners see it, and subscribe for deep dives that keep expensive failures off your driveway. And before you go, watch the previous video. There's a feature most drivers miss that makes daily driving easier and safer.